From ABC News headquarters, this is World News with Charles Gibson.
Good evening. The outbreak of swine flu moved to a new level today. In this country, 24 new cases were reported, and hundreds more cases are suspected just in New York alone. The acting head of the CDC said he fully expects deaths from this infection. And the administration is asking for $1.5 billion to fight the disease. But with all of that, experts are still not certain how severe this outbreak is going to become. Nor can they say why those who have been diagnosed in this country have been able to recover so quickly when so many in Mexico could not. We have several reports, and we start with John McKenzie.
The White House request for $1.5 billion to fight swine flu underscores just how seriously they're taking this threat. Money to be used for
supplementing antiviral stockpiles, developing a vaccine, supporting the monitoring, diagnostic, and public health response capabilities, and assisting international efforts to stem this outbreak.
The government cannot afford to wait, not with the numbers of confirmed swine flu cases on the rise again today. There are now more than 70 confirmed cases in the U.S., and for the first time, word that 5 swine flu patients had to be hospitalized. 3 were in California, 2 in Texas. All have since recovered.
Influenza is a severe infection. It affects different people differently based on their own immunity, their ability to fight infection.
A key question now is, how easily will this virus spread here from person to person? Most of the swine flu cases in the U.S. and now 5 other countries are people who had recently visited Mexico. But in New York City, a few teenagers who came back from Mexico have now infected dozens of their classmates. And today reports that children in a second school are sick.
I had a headache, I had some body aches.
Michael Nicoloas is one of those New York City students who contracted swine flu from classmates returning from Mexico. But like most, the symptoms are mild.
As we were sitting in the hospital, I started to feel completely better, which was weird.
Health officials say one reason there may be milder cases in the U.S. is that there's been earlier, more aggressive screening. Mexico only identified the virus after people were dying from it. The U.S. began looking for cases much sooner and finding patients before they got too sick. Doctors say aggressive surveillance is key.
To give people a heads up to look for cases, it gives us an opportunity to treat earlier.
U.S. public health officials say they are now moving forward aggressively, preparing for this flu epidemic to become much more severe. Because if it does, there would be precious little time to respond. Charlie?
John McKenzie reporting again tonight. Thanks. Both Israel and New Zealand reported their first cases today, but still Mexico has been hardest hit with 26 deaths confirmed and more than 150 deaths suspected to have been caused by the flu. Authorities in Mexico say they think they have pinpointed where the virus began. Jeffrey Kaufman is there in La Gloria, Mexico.
This is ground zero in the swine flu outbreak. La Gloria, a remote Mexican farming village that the world would never know, but for a 5-year-old boy who was very sick with swine flu a month ago. Today, we found a very healthy Edgar Hernandez with his little brother and father on the village's dusty main street.
Were you sick?
Yes, he says.
You were sick? Muy enfermo?
Very sick, I ask. Yes, he says, with a cough. How do you feel now, I ask.
¿Te sientes ahora?
Good, says the boy.
¿Sí?
3 días en cama.
Edgar's father told us his son spent 3 days in bed with a very high fever. And he wasn't the only one. A month ago, La Gloria had its own flu epidemic. More than 800 people in the town of 2,000 got sick. No one died, but after swine flu spread, government investigators tested Edgar's mucus sample. They still don't know how the virus spread if it did start here.
When people here heard that a case of swine flu had been traced to this area, few were surprised. And in the next breath, they'll tell you they think they know where it came from.
Just a few miles from the village are about a dozen huge industrial pig farms, the vast majority part-owned by Smithfield, the biggest pork producer in the United States. Back in La Gloria, the men complain about the polluted air and groundwater, but they don't know how Edgar got sick. The pig farms, they say, are all bad.
The pig farms, are they good or are they not good for your community? Malas? See?
The most likely way that this young boy got this infection was from another person who had been in contact with the pigs.
Podemos entrar?
No, you're not getting in, said the security guard. Smithfield Foods instead sent us a statement saying there is no evidence of swine flu in any of its swine herds or its employees. It is still not clear how this little boy got swine flu, but it is clear that so far he is the first known case in an epidemic that has spread across the globe. Jeffrey Kaufman, ABC News, La Gloria, Mexico.
And the swine flu outbreak continues to have a real impact on the Mexican economy. As an example, Carnival Cruise Lines canceled stops for 3 ships destined for Mexican ports today and all other cruises through May 4th. Other cruise lines are maintaining their schedules for now. In Mexico City, one local business group estimates the city is losing $57 million each day. The CDC in Atlanta has become the center for the swine flu investigation. It is one of only 4 laboratories in the world that has the expertise to unravel a novel flu strain. The center has activated an emergency operations center, and today ABC's Lisa Stark went behind the scenes there.
Inside the Central Command Post of America's fight against this outbreak, teams of doctors and scientists are on full alert.
What we're trying to do is identify how bad, how good the swine flu is currently operating. Is it expanding? Is it contracting? Is it maintaining a steady state?
200 staffers in constant contact with health officials in 50 states and countries around the globe. With the uptick in cases today, the CDC shipped out more antiviral medication and sent additional teams to the field.
I think at the moment we need to be looking forward and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep people from getting sick.
The CDC discovered that a new virus had come to America by chance. Random flu samples were being collected for development of a new flu test. One triggered alarms. Soon the CDC knew it was dealing with a virus never seen before.
Microbes don't follow a playbook, and what you've seen in the past may help you be more prepared.
That first sample was sent to this secure CDC infectious disease lab, which is on call 24 hours a day to analyze samples. The trickle has now become a flood.
Right now it's approaching anywhere between 50 and 100. And it's increasing steadily.
Scientists have preliminary test results in just 4 hours. The more challenging task, growing the virus so others can start developing a vaccine. Tonight, scientists say they won't finish with that initial work for at least another week. Lisa Stark, ABC News, Atlanta.
Politics next, and a bombshell announcement in Washington today. Arlen Specter, for 30 years, has been a Republican senator from Pennsylvania. Now, he says he's a Democrat. Specter conceded today his low standing among Republicans in Pennsylvania imperiled his chances for re-election, but his switch puts Democrats within 1 vote of having a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. Here's Jonathan Karl.
To Arlen Specter's Senate colleagues, this was a political earthquake.
I have found myself increasingly at odds with the Republican philosophy and more in line with the philosophy of the Democratic Party.
Specter said he had been driven out by the right wing of the Republican Party.
They don't make any bones about their willingness to lose the general election. If they can purify the party, there ought to be a rebellion. There ought to be an uprising.
By switching parties, Specter puts Democrats a whisker away from a 60-vote supermajority. That would make it impossible for Republicans on their own to block anything. Shell-shocked Republican senators called the move devastating.
But it certainly sets up the potential for the majority, if it chooses to run roughshod over the majority, over the minority, to eliminate checks and balances and the kind of restraint that Americans have historically wanted.
In a blistering response, Republican Party Chairman Michael Steele declared Specter, quote, left to further his personal political interests. Specter had outraged Pennsylvania Republicans by voting in favor of President Obama's stimulus plan and was facing a tough primary challenge from former Congressman Pat Toomey. He candidly acknowledged polls showed he'd lose the Republican primary.
Not prepared to have that record decided by that jury, the Pennsylvania Republican primary electorate.
Specter is a moderate, but in nearly 30 years as a Republican senator, he often clashed with Democrats, taking on Anita Hill during the Clarence Thomas confirmation battle a generation ago, and on most issues, voting with Republicans.
I voted 10,000 times. I don't expect everybody to agree with all my votes. I don't agree with them all myself at this point.
President Obama told Specter today he was, quote, thrilled to have him. More importantly, the president promised to campaign for Spectre next year in Pennsylvania. Charlie?
Jonathan Karl reporting from Capitol Hill, and George Stephanopoulos, the host of This Week, is joining us now. George, this was a